In the last video, which is learning the program with F Sharp, Volume 1, I talked about the motivation to learn how to write code, or specifically how to engineer software. And I talked about how what type of money was involved, and I attempted to demonstrate kind of a hello world console program. And this video is going to be a continuation, in which like these videos that I'm doing are really intended or designed for people that are like just brand new to programming. And I don't think learning C# or Java or Ruby or JavaScript is an ideal way or ideal technique or strategy in the long term to really be the best programmer you can be. Just because these programming languages are already old, and they were very good for what we didn't have 15, 20 years ago, but they don't have enough constraints to protect us from harming ourselves. And with this functional programming paradigm that is starting to capture, I don't know, the media, this media hype, they have more constraints, and they tend to have better protection. So yeah, you can reference the last video that I published, which was the intro to like all these videos that I'm doing targeting people that want to get into programming. And instead of programming with an object-oriented language such as JavaScript or C# or Java or Ruby, I'm preaching that you should strongly consider learning to program with a functional programming language: F#, Elixir, Clojure, Scala, Haskell. There's another one, Idris. There's probably a couple others. Kotlin, I believe, has some functional features to it. So, yeah. Now, if I share my screen, start screen share, and present to everybody, and then I launch Visual Studio and go to my console app that I did from the last video, then we should see this past solution load up, in which I attempted to demo a hello world program. And we wait for that to load up. Apparently there's a lot of work loading up a 3-line console application that consists of only one project. Okay, so here we go. This is what we call the Solution Explorer. This basically conveys the files that make up our application. Every solution will have one or many projects. This project is called My Console App. We can examine the type of project that it is by going to the properties of that project. And we see the assembly name. We see the framework that it targets. And we see the output type is a console application. Output types could be a Windows application, such as like Windows Presentation Foundation, maybe WinForms. I think that's what this Windows application means. Console application is like a console window. And then you have a class library, meaning that it's not executable like these two output types up here, Windows application or console application, but instead a class library is, when you compile it, it compiles to a DLL or a dynamically linked library. And this is so that you could write code once and reference it in other solutions as a project. All right. This .NET framework, or I'm sorry, this target framework is shoot. This I got a message that threw me off, a text message. This target framework really means a version of .NET, a version of the .NET code base that we want to reference when we're building our application. I'm really getting distracted. And so there's a number of versions of the .NET Core specifically framework, starting from 1.0, 1.1, 2.0, 2.1. Okay. And again, the target framework is basically pointing to a certain version of within history of the code base that the Microsoft developers had pretty much cultivated so that us developers can reference their core libraries. That's what target framework means. And we select one. We're selecting the latest one. Assembly name is my console app. What does that mean? An assembly is essentially, the way I would explain it is everything that you need, everything that the software application needs. Let me say it a different way. Everything that an executable requires in order for it to run successfully. This means that, if there were a video game, you would have media files like audio files, you have videos, and you would have your normal code files such as F sharp files, C sharp files, JavaScript files, everything that you need, your XML files such as app config, all the files that are required, regardless of their extensions, that are required for the application to run successfully. Well, we can place a name on the executable, right? The executable is like the main file that's responsible for bootstrapping the entire application. And so our executable, the name that we assign to it, is my console app. Okay. And so we can, this my console app that we assign as an assembly name is actually going to be the name that shows up in our bin directory /debug, actually it's backslash, .NET Core 2.1, and we see my console app.dll. That's strange. I thought it was supposed to be executable. This is .NET Core. I thought it was supposed to be executable. Let me look at the properties. Oh, yeah, it's class library, console application. If we build this again, oh, yeah, and I've been saying that instead of relying on the cursor or the trackpad, we should rely on Control-Shift-B to build, right? And so then if we go back, then, yeah. So, I just want to be sure about something. I'm going to delete this debug directory, and I'm going to build the solution again, Control-Shift-B, and then go back to this bin directory. This debug folder is recreated, and my console app.dll. If I double click this, oh, that's strange. if I run this, then the application runs, I hit any key, and it terminates. So there's something that I'm missing in here, because I should be able, there should be an executable. I'm expecting an executable in here. If I go to properties and then build, there should be an output path. If I go to debug, build events, build application, one of these tabs should provide the output path that the executable is going to be dumped in. And I don't see that in here. Of course, this is all .NET Core, so there could be just important things that I'm missing about .NET Core in regards to, I don't know, it doesn't spit out an executable. Instead, it spits out a DLL, which it appears to be doing, which is confusing to me. I don't see an output path on here. Yeah, I don't see any of this. Build events, debug. So ideally, we shouldn't only have the option of running the console application by pressing F5 within the IDE. Ideally, right, you hit any key and it exits. Ideally, we should be able to go to the bin directory right here. And I don't know, do I need to put this into release mode and then compile it? Now, if I go to bin directory and I just delete that, and then this is in release mode, no longer in debug mode, I do control shift B, then it's building. If I look at the output window, is it going to say anything? Yeah, this literally dumps out a DLL. And so I need to do some research on .NET Core applications to figure out, one, if they pump out a DLL, then how does that DLL actually get executed as a application? Because it's clear that it's pumping out a DLL right here. And what I'm searching for is an exe. All right, this is the release folder. And I don't see a difference at all. I mean, like, you can't run this. What is this, run tests? I don't know what that is. Say open with, it doesn't know what that is. So that's something I have to figure out. But I'm not going to let that deter me from what else I want to show. All right, so we could at least run the application within our IDE, or our integrated development environment. Now, so far, when we run this application, it says hello world from F#, right? And so we see it right here, hello world from F#. And we press any key. We could also say hello world from blah, blah, right? Yeah, maybe we want to put this back in debug mode. Okay. Hit F5. And once this builds and runs, we see hello world from blah, blah. So hopefully you get the point, right? That's our program. Now, what if we wanted to do something a little more involved? What if we wanted to request the user's name and then print out to the screen hello and then the user's name, whatever the user's name is. How could we accomplish that? Well, we could do something like, let me see how we could do this. We could do something like this. We could say, let user name. We're creating essentially a value in which we're going to assign whatever the end user keys in, we're going to assign that value to our username. I would say variable, but it's not. We'll call this a value. So we're assigning that value to our username value. And so we can say let username equal. I don't even have to say username. I can just say name, right? Most of the time in programming, you're basically trying to figure out the right name to assign your functions, your methods, and your values. That's where you spend most time, I would say. Well, that's not true. That's where I spend my most time, because most of my time, because I have a little bit of OCD. So you say let name equal, and then we say console dot read line, something like that. And then we can say hello. And I'm not sure in F# if we could do something like this right here. It looks like no, we can't. So what we can do is we can, let's take that back. What we can do is we can say let let display equal, and then we could say hello, or first we could say sprint f, and then we could say hello, and we put a %, string, and we say name as our argument, and then we could say print function equal display, like that. Oh, you don't like that, do you? Why don't you like that? What else am I missing? Sprintf, hello, name. That should be okay. I'm not sure what else I'm doing wrong. The string is not compatible with type. Text writer.format. Now, if I just replace that with, okay, let me see. Display is a string, and when we print f, or print function, usually if we put that in there, that's a string too. Okay. So what is the difference between putting a string right here, which is an empty string, versus putting in a display right here, which display, if I hover over it, is a string. And it says the type string is not compatible with print text writer format, printf text writer format, whatever. So name, yeah, I'm really not sure what else do I need to put this in parentheses? No. So I know it's something minor. It's killing me. Control Shift B. And the type string is not compatible with the type printf.textWriter format A. I don't know what that means. And if I put A in there, yeah, I still get the same error. And I'm gonna have to delete this video because I don't know what it's complaining about. I thought if you put %s in there, S is for string, and yeah, I don't. Let display equal. Do I just do this right here? Oh, okay. No. This value cannot be applied. Yeah. Yeah, I honestly don't know. Print function. I'm gonna copy this message right here. Go to actually, hold up. We will do that there and do that here. Hit enter. And apparently someone posted this on Stack Overflow. That's because the format parameter is not actually a string, it's a text writer format T, and the F# compiler converts the string format into that type, but it doesn't work on string variables. With emphasis on variables, because the compiler can't convert the string to text writer T at runtime. If you want to print the content of the variable, you shouldn't even try to use print function this way, because the variable could contain format specifications. You can either use the %s format, which is that right there, or use console.writeLine. Okay. So saying that it looks like it's saying that print function let me get rid of that, and that's what we have right here. So we read in a value. Oh yeah, so I probably want to do a console dot print how do you console.read and console.write, right? Console.write line. And we could say enter a name, enter your name, and then we have let name equal console.readLine, and then we print hello and then name, and then you can hit whatever key. So that's the code that we should have. Control-Shift-B. The build succeeded, hence looking at the bottom left-hand corner of the IDE, and then when we hit F5, it says enter your name. I say Scott Dog. Okay. I hit enter. It says hello, Scott Dog. Okay. Then you hit any key and the program terminates. So That took a little bit of time to figure out. Now, with that said, Stack Overflow is your friend, right? This website right here, this will answer the majority, I would say like 90% of your questions when it comes to not knowing the syntax of how to accomplish something programmatically in your favorite programming language, okay? The Stack Overflow. And I even had to use it because, well, I'm not used to writing console applications, and I'm not used to printing things on the screen within a console app. I'm usually doing WPF or Xamarin. So Stack Overflow comes in really handy, okay? What else can I show you? Well, let's see. What if we wanted to get the name and let me see. What if we wanted to get the name and ethnicity of the end user, right? Well, we already have the name, right? We say console.writeline, enter your name. That's the program prompting the user to enter their name. And we retrieve the name with this console.readline, right? And we get that name that we then use that value to print back to or display on the screen. Now, we can keep things together. They usually belong together, or keep code together. They usually, what's the phrase? Keep code together that usually changes together, and pull code apart that usually changes for different reasons, right? So we get our name, and let's copy paste this code because it's the same pattern. And then we're going to say enter your ethnicity. I can't spell it all. Ethnicity, I can't spell. Hold up. I need Google's help. Oh, come here. Where you at? Right here. How do you spell ethnicity? Ethnicity, right here. Okay. And so we're going to do enter your name, and then we're going to have an enter your ethnicity, and we're going to have that right there. And then we're going to say hello name, and then we're going to say you are, and then we're going to do another, where am I at? Right there. We're going to do another %s for string, and we are going to say, actually, we're going to boom \n, and then say you are, and then we're going to put the ethnicity. Okay. \n should be a carriage return, I believe, or a new line. And so when we run this, and the cool people, they don't use a cursor to hit the run button. They press F5. When we run this, enter your name, Scott Dog. We hit enter your ethnicity, and I could say, I don't know, African American. All right, African American, because white people, they're not European American, they're Americans, but black people, they have to be African American anyway. And then Indians, they have to be Native Americans, but white folks, they're Americans. Okay, I'm done venting. We hit enter. Hello, Scott Dog. You are African American. Okay. Now, and we see a little carriage return in there. So that's the program that we just wrote. It's kind of hard to read though. So what modifications can we make? Let's do an alt print screen, and then we can use the window key and we can bring up our Microsoft Paint. We could print that here as a reference point. And maybe what we want to do is, maybe we want to say, can we do \n like that? Maybe we do it a couple times. And that's the \n over here. Delete the space. And that should be straight right there, right? So if we hit F5, enter your name, say Scott Dog, come here, hit enter. Enter your ethnicity, and that's still not what we wanted. In your ethnicity, you say African American, and something like that. And that's still not what we want. It says, hello, Scott Dog, you are African American. So there's still some issues with our display, right? We were somewhat on track with enter your name, and we had some spacing in there. And we were somewhere on track when we put down you are African American, but there's still some opportunities to provide further separation. And it looks like those opportunities are when we're requesting the user to enter in data or key in data. So what we could do is when we read a line, we can really immediately when we read the line, we could maybe put some carriage returns like that. And when we read line again, put in some carriage returns like that. And when we hit F5, when we hit the rerun or replay, enter your name, Scott Dog, and enter your ethnicity, American Negro. Is that how you spell Negro? Does Negro have an E at the end? I don't think so. This is me relying on Google because I don't know how to spell Negro. Negro spirituals, Negro. Okay. A member of dark-skinned group of peoples originally native to Africa, South of Sahara, relating to black people. Okay. So I put in American Negro for my ethnicity. Hit enter. It says, hello, Scott Dog. You are American Negro. Well, there's some grammar issues in here. And so this is the interesting thing about programming, right? Because if I just put in African American, if I just put in black, then you are black would be fine. But it seems like when we put in like maybe a multi-word, I don't know what you call it, pronoun, I don't know, then we're really missing the and part, right? And so that's an interesting problem that I don't think I'm going to solve, but we could put and right here, but that's not really solving our problems, right? Because that and will only, let me show you what I'm talking about. Like when I say, hello, Scott Dog, you are an American Negro. Well, that and will only be valid if, well, the first letter of the first word is a vowel. If it's not a vowel, if it doesn't start with A, E, I, O, U, then we use A, right? So enter your name, Scott Dog, And enter your ethnicity. I could say African American. Hello, Scott Dog. You are an African American. And that is what we want. Attention to detail says get rid of that period right there because nothing else has a period. Now, that's what we want for the most part, but we're not quite sure when to use the word "and" versus not using it at all. So, like for example, if I said my name was Scott Dog and I said that my ethnicity is black, then it would have made sense for it to basically print, "Hello, Scott Dog, you are in black," right? That's not grammatically correct. It should say, "Hello, Scott Dog, you are black," right? Now, but in this case, if we have African American, "Hello, Scott Dog, you are an African American." Or you could just say, "Hello, Scott Dog, you are African American." Either one, I think, is fine. And so one can say that you could get rid of "and," but if I replace African American with American Negro, it would say, "Hello, Scott Dog, you are American Negro," which doesn't sound right. What would sound right is, "Hello, Scott Dog, you are an American Negro." So that sounds correct. So we have this issue here, right? Where when do we use "an" and when do we not use "an"? And so this is where we can start brainstorming and say that our ethnicity, well, we could say let, and I don't know what we want to call this, "and" or the word "and" or not using "and," omitting "and." I don't know. I guess I'll call it a modifier because I don't know what the right word is. Modifier equals, and then in F sharp, everything is an expression, right? So theoretically, there's a couple ways I could do this. I could say, like, if ethnicity, I can't spell. If if ethnicity equal, actually, I don't need to do that. I want to say ethnicity is supposed to be a string. A string should be an array of characters, which means that if it's an array or a list of characters, then it should have a list. So theoretically, I should be able to say if list dot length ethnicity. So I should be able to do something like this. If list dot length ethnicity equals 1, then I should be able to say empty string. And then else should be able to say, I don't know. I guess we had "and" in here. Like that right here. So now, what is this talking about right now? Right now it's complaining that the following let is unfinished. Every code block is an expression, must have a result. Let cannot be final element in a block. Consider giving this block an explicit result. Well, I said if should do that right there. If I'm supposed to do then right here, and apparently I spelled ethnicity incorrectly. If ethnicity the expression was expected to have a list, but here it has type string. Okay, so if it's a type string, ethnicity.length, like that. And I guess we can get rid of these parentheses right here. And that should be okay. So now we have this modifier, and we say if ethnicity.length is equal to 1, then that's like, my ethnicity is black, and so we don't have anything, which means that we say you are black. But if our ethnicity is not 1, then it's anything else, then we use the word "an," like you are an African American, you are an American Negro. But you can only use "an" if the first letter of the first word is a vowel, right? And so this is a little interesting thing. So we still got to handle that, right? Because there's more rules to that. But for right now, we can replace this "and" with another %s. Another %s. And we can say modifier right there, okay? And so if we run this so far, we're going to have code that's partially correct, but it's still going to have some issues. And I'll demonstrate that. So you hit F5 to run the application, enter your name. We say Scott Dog, okay? And then enter your ethnicity. Now, if I say black, then hit enter. Hello, Scott Dog. You are in black. Well, that's not right. What just happened? Why did it say you are in black? The ethnicity we assigned was black. We said if the length of the ethnicity was equal to 1, then the modifier was equal to an empty string, which it was 1 because we assigned it black. And if it, yeah, so we're going to put a breakpoint right here. And breakpoints are basically a way for you to pause the execution of a program. To set a breakpoint, you go to like the left margin of a line of code, and you just using the mouse left click, and you put a breakpoint right there. So when we run this, when we hit replay, I should hit Control Shift F5. Then you can basically step through this code. So it hits a breakpoint, and then if you want to step over that breakpoint to the next line, meaning you want to execute this line so that you can get to the next line, you can hit F10, right? And so that's going to print up here into your name. And then let name equals console.readline. We hit F10 again. We have opportunity to say Scott Dog. Oh, Scott Dog. Hit enter. And so then it says enter your ethnicity. We can hit F10 right there. Hit F10 again. And we can say black. Okay. Hit enter. Now it says our modifier equals if ethnicity, which is black, right? We're hovering over this. If ethnicity, that length equals, ethnicity is, it's a string of characters, right? And so we have more than one character. What I meant in this logic was if we have one word, then we could just return an empty string. But this ethnicity is a string that has a length. And so black is more than one character. And I wasn't thinking about characters, I was thinking about words. So in here, I could say if ethnicity, we can right now just hack it and assume that if ethnicity dot contains a space, right? And there's better ways of doing this. Ethnicity contains a space, then return an empty string. Else, if it does contain the space, use and. But if you do that, then you probably should say, you could probably say, if ethnicity contains space and ethnicity, ethnicity dot length is greater than, I would say, 2. You could say greater than or equal to 3 characters. So ethnicity contains space and ethnicity is greater than or equal to 3 characters. And maybe we could say not up here. It's not containing a space and it's not greater than, how am I doing this? If it's not containing a space and the length of it is greater than or equal to 3, then return an empty string, else return and. I think there's an issue with this operator right here. This logic is confusing. So I'm going to say if ethnicity contains a space and the length of ethnicity is greater than 3 characters, then I'm going to say return and, else return an empty string. I think that reads better. So when I run this, I'm going to remove this breakpoint. When I run it, enter your name, Scott Dog, your ethnicity. If I say black, hit enter. Hello, Scott Dog, you are black. Okay. And there's issues because there's 2 spaces in here. To resolve that, I could do something like that. And put a space right there like that. If I hit F5, it says enter your name. I say Scott Dog. Okay. Enter your ethnicity, and I say black. It says hello, Scott Dog. You are black, and that's what we want. Okay. Now, what if we rerun it and I say, it says enter your name, and I say Scott Dog, and then it says enter your ethnicity, and I say American Negro, and I hit enter. It says hello, Scott Dog. You are an American Negro. Well, this has issues because there's 2 spaces between R and N should really have a space before whatever the ethnicity is. So we take that and say you are, hello, Scott Dog, you are, uh-oh. Hello, Scott Dog, you are, we gotta get rid of that. URN, and then I forgot what the other part was. Now, I don't always have to enter in the name part, right? So let's say I'm debugging and I don't want to keep on entering the same data over and over again, especially if it already works. So you can always select the lines of code that you just don't want to execute, and you could do a control KC, which will comment out the code. K as in killer, C as in cobra, to comment out that code. And apparently that's not going to work because we're still referencing that down here. I'm going to leave that. Control Z undoes whatever action that you originally did. And so boom, boom, you are, and then modifier, let's hit a 5. It's building, runs in your name. Scott dog. Hit enter in your ethnicity. We say black. And hello, Scott dog. You are black. Okay. Now we go back and we say enter your name. We say Scott dog. Like this, and says enter your ethnicity. And we say American Negro. Like this. We hit enter. This hello, Scott dog. You are an American Negro. So that N, we need to put a space right there. And then when we hit F5, supposedly our world problems are solved. And so in your name, I say Scott Dog. And it says in your ethnicity, and I say American Negro, like this. It says, hello, Scott Dog, you are an American Negro. Goddamn right. All right, so then we go back and we say, in your name, we say Scott. Come here, Scott Dog. And you say enter your ethnicity, and I say black. And it says, hello, Scott Dog, you are black. Yes. All right, so that's a piece of programming in which we're professional debuggers, and we're basically, instead of writing automated tests, we are literally manually testing the code that we write, which I don't recommend at all. I'm teaching you bad habits out the floodgate. You shouldn't be programming like this. You should be writing automated tests, and basically, instead of executing the entire application and manually testing it, you should be having your automated tests executing instead and telling you what broke based on your assumptions, right? That's going to be another video. So, is there anything else like this? This looks okay, but it's kind of hard to like digest, meaning that there's opportunity to make this a little bit cleaner, right? So we can look at this and we can say, well, what's this section of code doing? You know what? F that. Hold up. What is this argv? Like, are we even using that? The answer is no, right? So we can like, I don't know, we could omit that. We're not really omitting it, but we're just replacing the name of that argument with an underscore, which is kind of like a wild card. That's what I like to do. So that means that it's not really relevant. Okay, what else can we do? What's this section right here? This whole section is about entering a name and then reading that name and assigning it to a value. So I should be able to say Control RM. It's not letting me do that. That's not letting me do that. Now, I was hoping that the tools would be good enough where if I did Control RM, it would extract out a method for me, but it's not letting me do that. So what I could do is say up here, hopefully I could say let get name, or let handle name retrieval. Let name retrieval. And make that maybe return a unit equal. And then maybe I cut this here and I paste that there. Something like that maybe. And that's going to return a name. And so I say over here, let name equal name retrieval, like that. And so name retrieval actually returns a string, but it takes a unit. A unit is essentially a void. And well, if you're new to programming, a void is kind of like there's no value that's required that needs to be specified as a return or as an argument, right? And so we say let name equals the name retrieval function that takes a unit or a void as an argument, meaning you don't have to provide anything as an argument. And so we're going to do the same thing over here, where like we want to retrieve let me start over. We want to retrieve the ethnicity, right? So in order to accomplish that, we can say over here, let ethnicity retrieval equal, and then we can go ahead and do that here. And we return whatever the user enters as the ethnicity. And we say, come here, let ethnicity equal, and then we say ethnicity retrieval, like that. And so we can then take advantage of my OCD, make sure that things are lined up. Okay. And so we have name, ethnicity, and then, I mean, while we're at it, we can just say over here, we can say let modifier equal, and then we just do that over here. And actually, we already have that code right there. So we can get rid of that, and then we could bring this over here. And this modifier is going to take a ethnicity as an argument. And it doesn't know what ethnicity is. It doesn't know the type. So we have to help out the compiler and say this ethnicity is going to be of type string. Okay. And so the compiler is happy. And so we say modifier, we're going to call this modifier retrieval to follow the conventions of the other functions that we have up here. Okay. So of course, the difference is it's not a retrieval because we're not like relying on other functions that happen to read in a line. in this case, we don't want to call that retrieval because the user's not specifying modifier. We're getting it. So we say let modifier equal. Yeah, that's fine. So here we can say this modifier is going to have an ethnicity right there. And that looks kind of messed up, right? So what do we just do? Well, I'm not done yet. Here we can say Control RM. None of this is working. We could say this is still a no. This is a unit. So we could say display info, and that display info will define up here. Let display info, and that requires a name. That requires an ethnicity, and do something like that. And so that should be it. Over here, we should say, we could do something like ignore. I think I'm doing this right. Oh, yeah. Name, ethnicity, like that. And this value we're not using, we just use a wildcard right here. And so we now have our main program that we get a name from name retrieval, we get ethnicity from ethnicity retrieval, and then we call it display info, name, ethnicity, and that's it. This right here, we can say exit. So we could do something like exit, and then up here we can say let's exit equal, and then we just put this right there. We need to shift that like that. And I wonder if it probably won't. Maybe. Okay. And so this looks a little cleaner. I would say a lot cleaner than what we had originally. But how much cleaner does it look? Because now we just pretty much isolated the code, basically organized it or partitioned it, and we threw it way up here, which is kind of distracting, but it's still necessary. But I mean, we could do something about that, right? So in the Mod Console app, if I do Control Shift A, because I'm cool and I don't use the mouse, at least I try not to, then we can create a new file and we can throw that code inside this new file to separate our main driving part of our program, our main program driver, from the actual helpers, right? So we can call this file helpers, for lack of a better file name. And this helpers is actually going to host the files that, or the code that we just, or the functions that we just organized. Okay. This console gets red squigglies because we need to import the system namespace. And then we need to basically open and then say helpers. We're importing that namespace. And oh, shucks. this looks pretty clean, okay? And this over here looks pretty clean, okay? And so when we hit a 5, then when we hit a 5, 5 is for run the program. It says enter name, and I say Scott dog. Dog, okay? In your ethnicity, American, Negro, okay? And hello, Scott Dog, and you are an American Negro. Okay. Now there's bugs in here. You know there's bugs in here, right? Like we didn't really put a test in here for checking that the first letter of the word for ethnicity is a vowel. We didn't test that. So what I mean is that you get F5 in your name, and we say Tom, right? In your ethnicity, and we can say white. Okay. Hello, Tom. You are white. Okay, that's fine. Let's try this again. Uh, hold up. No, what's white is European, or you could say Anglo-Saxon. Uh, what ethnicity starts with a consonant or does not start with a vowel? In your name, Tom. Enter your ethnicity. Anglo-Saxon, white, European. Okay, non-African American. Okay. Now, if I hit enter, hello, Tom, you are an non-African American. Okay, so with that, it should be really hello, Tom, you are a non-African American. And so this gives us an opportunity to modify our modifier function and say that if ethnicity contains a space and the ethnicity.length is greater than 3, then we say and. Though we really want to say that if ethnicity contains a vowel, right? So we could say if ethnicity contains, oh, shoot. Let me go over here. So if ethnicity contains a vowel, I don't know how to spell vowel. Vowel, I don't know how to spell vowel. And then you can say and ethnicity contains space and ethnicity is the length of the ethnicity is greater than or equal to 3, then you say and, right? So what does that mean? Well, let's now create a function called vowel called starts with vowel, however you spell vowel, I don't know. And we have the word here, and we say if word dot, it doesn't know what word is. Word is a string, okay? And I don't have to put a cap S on there. I could just say word is a string. If word dot should be starts with a, and then hopefully I could just say, how do I, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could say if word starts with, and then you say A, or if word starts with E, or you could do that. Or another way is you could say let is vowel. I still don't know how to spell vowel. Vowel equal a let vowel let vowel, and then you pass in a character, and then you could say if character dot I'm getting sick of specifying how everything is a string or a char. I'll say string. They say make illegal states unrepresentable. Can I say char? So then you could say if character dot, but if you say char, then you can't really say, to lower or to upper to handle the different cases of capitalization. Like if I do this right here, and then I say character dot, and I could say to lower. If character dot to lower equals a, right? Now one can say that you can probably say character and then char, and then you could say if character dot to string like that, then dot to lower equals a. But then you probably want to consolidate this and say that let value equal that right there. That to lower is a method. And then you could say if the value is a, but then we could use pattern matching, right? So then we could say match value with, and then we should be able to say a, and then we should say true like that. And then, well, we could probably just do this a couple times, which we say, A, E, I, O, U. And something tells me that I don't really have to, if I do Shift Alt and I use the arrow key, hopefully I don't have to do all that over there. I could just do this right here. And that looks like it'll be okay. So then you could say let val, this is complaining about, okay. Over here, I could say word pipes into word dot, can I say first? Word dot substring 0 index, and then pipes into is vowel, something like that. and but that needs to be a character, and I don't feel like. What is this char? Is it an array? What is that? Chars takes in. This is getting on my nerves. Forget it. We'll say this is also a string because I don't feel like trying to figure out how to convert the two. Okay. And so value equals a string. And we'll make that a string. And we'll make that a string. And everything appears to be happy there. And if ethnicity contains a vowel, well, that's not right. We could say if ethnicity starts with a vowel, now it's complaining about value. Oh, yeah. So here we can do this and do this, do this, do this. And we can basically say that that's true. Else, if it's none of those, then we can say it's false. Okay. And so we can do something like that. And starts with vowel. Here, our modifier, we say if ethnicity starts with vowel and our ethnicity contains a space. So just to optimize this a little bit, we probably want to say that if it starts with, if it contains a space, we want this has a vowel to be towards the end. And we probably want, come here. No, come here. And we probably want to say that if its length is greater than 3, then we want to continue qualifying like that. So if the length of the ethnicity string is greater than 3, and if this ethnicity string contains a space, and if the ethnicity starts with a vowel, then we can use the modifier and. Else, we don't use a modifier at all. Okay, so if we run this, then we can probably say enter your name. We say Scott Dog. It says enter your ethnicity, and I say non-African American. Then hit enter. Hello, Scott Dog. You are non-African American. Good. Okay. Our next test is hit F5. Enter your name. I say Scott Dog. Says enter your ethnicity, and I say African American. Hit enter. Says hello, Scott Dog. You are African American. Okay, well, it's supposed to say you are an African American. Yeah, I mean, you could probably get away with that, but it should still say you are an African American. Yeah, if we look at this again, then we could put a modifier, we put a breakpoint right here. And we run this again. In your name, you say Scott dog. In your ethnicity, we say African American. And you hit enter. Okay, your ethnicity is 16 characters. The length of your ethnicity is 16 characters, which means that it's greater than or equal to 3. Hence, I put a breakpoint right here. Remember, you can hit F9, or you can click on the left margin. So this right here is true because its length is 16. Hence, now does it contain the space? African American, it does contain the space. And then we have, does it start with a vowel? And so I could put a breakpoint over here. Shoot, if I hit F9, here. Now if I do F10, it says value equals character to lower. And character is misleading because it's actually a string. So we say match value with A, E, I, O, U. And what we didn't do here is we want to get the first character of this string. So this character this is vowel. We want to substring 0 is vowel. What's substring? Don't we have to put like a length altogether? Hold up. The substring has a start index. And I thought that you're supposed to provide it a length. That's what we were missing. And so we say word.length like that. I should have to put the length there. Word.length. But we don't want the entire length. We just want the very first character. Right? There should be like first character. This chars, it's the object at specified position. That's what we want. We want word.chars, and then we just pass in a 0. Chars dot. How does this work? Hold up. Word.chars, is this supposed to be a method? Word.chars, and then is vowel. That is vowel now takes a char, and then we can say value equals character dot to string dot to lower, and that should work. Okay, we could try this out. Hit F5. And in your name, we could say Scott dog. In your ethnicity, we could say African American, and you hit enter. Hello, Scott dog, you are an African American, and that's what we want. All right, so let's hit it again. In your name, we can say Scott dog. You say in your ethnicity, you say non-African American. Okay. Hello, Scott dog, you are non-African American. All right, and that's what we want. So recap, this is our main code base. Name equals name retrieval, ethnicity equals ethnicity retrieval. And then we display info with the name and ethnicity. To be cool, we can kind of do this. We can do something like within parentheses, we could say within F#, say name, comma, ethnicity, then pipe, and then that right there, display info. Of course, I don't think people recommend that. Um, something like that, right? And well, I think this is probably better. Then we exit out, right? And so the implementation details of what we have for this main program driver are these functions right here. Name retrieval starts with vol, modifier, display info. These are all the functions that we have. Exit is a value, it's not a function. And actually, should do that right there. Then we go back over here and we do that right there. So, and that is, that should be fine, right? Exit. Do I have to build everything again? Or hold up. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. So that's pretty much it. That's taking to recap, we just took a basic like hello world program and we basically manipulated that program into taking someone's name and ethnicity. And then we basically processed their ethnicity based on certain conditions by parsing out their input. And based on the length and based on if it had a space in the ethnicity string and based on if that string started with a specific character, then we decided to provide a specific modifier, for lack of a better term. And that's what this program does. And so this is, again, introducing you to program using F sharp. And now people understand why I fail live programming interviews, because I think things out. I'm very iterative, and I usually don't get things right the very first time. And yeah, so anyway, that's it. And I am hanging up. But I think this is good, and this gives people an opportunity to understand the workflow involved with taking a hello world app and modifying it to something that processes user input. In the next video, we'll probably introduce some data types and incorporate that into this program. And that's it. I'm about to hang up now. And I know this has been a while, but all right, I'm out. Peace.